Hi there and good afternoon. Welcome to today's masterclass. In this short session, we're just going to kind of take a little look at one of the key features on Nautilus so you can just get a better idea of how you can use it in your setting. So today, we're just going to take a little look at AI. We're going to think about how it's created, what it's doing, and also have a little look at some ideas for being able to kind of utilize the prompts and really start to think about how you can leverage the insights that you put into the system so you're drawing out some really useful insights. As always, if you want to kind of pop any questions in the chat, I'll pick those up at the end. For this session, we'll be kind of flowing through things, and I'll be clicking around and just showing you around on the dashboard. So, but like I say, feel free to put any questions in there if I can pick those up. Okay, so we're going to do a screen share. I'm going to put my screen on. We'll have a little wander through. And here we're just going to have a little think about really how the AI works. So first of all, we've got Nemo down in the bottom left corner. And as you can see up at the top there on the nav bar, I'm in the dashboard here. And this is a priority user, so I can see all of the insights coming into here. The AI does make a difference. If I'm set up as an English leader, I would just get the AI dipping in and delving into the English content or send or whatever it may be. But as a head teacher, that means I can access all of the insights coming into the system. So as we click on Nemo here, what he's going to do is he's going to really delve into the last 20 activities. And the reason why, there's a couple of reasons why we've made it such a span really, is that we want to kind of keep it fresh so that we're getting the insights up to date, and also the length of time that it takes. So we have to remember that we have to put money in the AI meter, literally, for each request. So we want to kind of manage this in the simplest way. And obviously you can imagine the amount of content going into there. So the default statement that we've got there really is kind of a bit of a kind of typical sort of school self-evaluation type question, really. What does the school do well, and what do we do less well? So it's really kind of just one of those things where we could just highlight and identify, again, with a little bit of a summary, the things that the school does well. And then what we're going to do from this point here, as you can see here, this is a great way to be able to kind of pick up on insights and to be able to just get a general kind of feel for what's coming into the system. And like I said, because it's the last 20, if you're a head teacher and you're just dropping in here maybe once a week and just sort of finding out, it's a good way to sort of stay up to date with any of the content that's coming in from your colleagues as well. Once we start to kind of think about what that prompt does, and how we can sort of reconstruct that instruction, we start to get a bit of an idea about what the possibilities are. So if we want to change the question up here, and we just want to think a little bit differently about how we present the insights, so we want we want to specify the amount of words. And I always think really, what is the right amount? How long should this be? 400 words is a pretty good length. You'll see it from when it creates this now, but it's a good enough length really to be able to take away and use either for self-evaluation or to be able to share and so on. Sorry, it just seems to be a little bit slow at the minute. I think it's probably because I'm running the webinar on the machine at the same time. So in here, there you go. What that does is obviously it breaks that down, and we can start to think a little bit differently about how we present the information. If we want to kind of change the style of it a little bit, we can do that as well. So if we want to create a 400-word school self-evaluation report of recent activity, but we want to anonymize and add a positive tone, then that will change that again. So now, the reason why I'm kind of adding that little sort of caveat on the end is obviously we want to think a little bit then about the audience. So if we want to anonymize it, it's perfect for sharing with governors or really being able to share with the staff. And obviously not everybody has access to a dashboard. So I think being able to kind of present that in a way where it's really positive is useful. So certainly feeding that back to staff in that manner is good. And anonymizing, so obviously that's really important if we do want to share with governors or so on, or inspectors as well. So that's really useful. Whereas we can specify particular people, departments, or anything else if we did want to do that as well. Okay, if we want to do the same then and start to think about, this is a very general overview because that's delving into everything. So when we first do that statement there, it could be anything that's coming into the system. So it's an accumulation of all of the content going in. If we want to break that down into send or ALN or both, then we can do that as well. So here you can see we can get a summary of the send, and that's really useful for things like governors reports, where our Senkos are kind of, and our ALN leaders are hopping around the school and kind of putting content into here. But also, it's not just that, it's also picking up any references to those children that may be in the text from anyone. So it could just be that there's observations taking place around the school where ALN or SEND has been referenced. So that's a good opportunity as well to be able to kind of draw through that content as well. And that's an interesting one when you think about things like inspection, as to how we can think about the terminology and incorporating that into our lesson visits. So then we can draw that insight for self-evaluation. I'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, so if we want to then add to that, obviously, any areas for improvement, which is a fairly typical request, we can highlight and pull out the kind of content, but we can look at the things that we do well or less well as well. So again, specifying with send or ALN, just so that we could kind of pull out those insights. And you can see here we've got the areas for improvement as well. So if we want to kind of then delve in and like I say, and think a little bit about that terminology, let's start to plant the word sort of exceptional in there. So obviously with Ofsted at the minute, there's sort of gradings and termings typically, but it's not exclusive to Ofsted. We're going to get those kind of things as well appearing with any inspection framework. So if you take a look at your inspection framework and you see certain terms that start to reappear and are being used. So for example, it could be disadvantaged or pupil premium or free school meals, whatever the groups you want to focus on or the key areas, then build that into your feedback. So as you start to do your learning walks, start to drop that word in, and we can then pull that through, not just here, but in the individual walks as well. So here you can see I've asked it as well to highlight the word exceptional, and it sort of plucks out different areas where that word appears. And that's really interesting because we're starting to develop at Nautilus thinking about word sort of sentiment analysis. And when it comes down to new features and how we integrate AI, what we want to do is we want people to be using the frameworks and performing those visits and be very, very conscious of the content that they put into the system using those keywords. And what that means is ultimately when we come to the dashboard, we can then start to incorporate those in our requests and start to pull through the insights for self-evaluation. So I think that's a really good example. And obviously Ofsted are kind of using the term exceptional. So what we did was a couple of sort of trial walks where we just planted that word in and it starts to bring that out. So that's an interesting really way to be able to use that. And obviously you could reshape that if you wanted to put it into just a 400 word, one paragraph sort of content, for self-evaluation. So I think that's a really interesting thought. If we just want to kind of ask questions as well in here as to how many we've done, and this is, sometimes there comes a place where we just want to know how many we've done, who's been seen, and so on. We can do that in the same way that if we want to create a summary of maths, we can do that the same way as well in here. And I'm putting that in there as well because I'm going to just add to that. Sorry, I'm copying and pasting from my page here. So interesting when you're looking at subjects and cohorts and things like that, because obviously just being able to kind of fire in those insights, and what it's doing is it's structuring that in the background nicely, as you can see, and you can tailor that. If we want to then change that as well, so that it's bilingual, so whatever language we're working with international schools currently. So that's a great way to be able to kind of tailor that as well. And for things like governors, I think it's good, and also for staff as well. It's certainly an asset to the system to be able to tailor that into a different language. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll start to just take a little look at some of the content and see how that differs in here. So I'm going to pull up a parent survey. So just at the top here, and we've got a few sort of quick surveys in here that have been completed. So I'm just going to pop into here and just give you a sample survey. And the surveys are interesting because I think there's a little bit of an oversight here, because we quite often use Nemo really for kind of school improvement around monitoring and observations, but we can also do that with surveys. So here on this report, when we click on Nemo in an individual report, then what it's going to do is it's going to narrow that search down and delve into just that report. So whereas the dashboard will cover those 20 activities in the full array of activity, on this occasion, it's just going to take from insights just from this one particular walk or survey or lesson visit and whatever it may be. So once we start to kind of come into here, and again, look to get the insights. And this is a very quick sample in here. What they'll do is start to present that data so you can highlight things that, actions that you might need to put into place. So we can see there areas for development. Those are the ones that are scoring lower. If you want to add the numerical scores, if you want to present that in one paragraph, or if you just want to present the actions and the next steps, then that's a good way to be able to use that too. So that's a great way to be able to kind of get that insight. The other thing that we can do here is down here, there's a button called that just says save. So if we click on this one here, what that's going to do is that's going to pin that to the report now. So down at the bottom, it's just pop that down there as well for future reference. So when you get something, you get a result in there where you're really happy and that's really useful. Click save and it'll just pin that to the report here so you can sort of revisit that. And that obviously just saves a little bit of time because sometimes the AI will present things in different ways slightly as well. So it will, as you probably know, it will do things quite differently sometimes. Okay, so let's have a little look in here as well. Again, if we want to look at another report, so in here, if we just want to look at an ECT, for example, this is just one teacher, so this is just one lesson visit. But again, the AI is able to draw upon those insights into here. And again, we can identify those areas for improvement. So once again, for Amadei here, we can start to pull those things out and learn more. And again, I think it's a really great way to be able to create a one paragraph supportive summary. So this is obviously really useful for an ECT. We want them to have the tails up. So it's really important that we can kind of phrase and frame things in the right way. So I think this is a great way, again, a commendable performance in geography, whatever that means. And down here, we can save that down to the AI summary as well. So we can add that in there as well. So a good, useful way to be able to kind of provide feedback for specific colleagues on this occasion, an ECT. And that's for an individual visit, so a standalone walk. So finally in here, we'll just take a little look at a bigger walk, so one where we've got lots of sort of contributions in here. So I'll just scroll down and find one that's fairly thorough. And it's my standard there, 21 entries. So lots of contributions, multiple contributors. And in here, once again, we can just use Nemo to be able to gain some insights in here. So I think, again, create a 300-word summary of this Nautilus report. Again, we can think carefully about how we take from it and obviously the audience and how we want to use that. Quite often for a walk where, there's been sort of 3 or 4 lesson visits or something like that, then ultimately what we can do is we can create a summary just to validate. So I think it's useful to be able, after a visit, it's a good thing to be able to kind of come out, create a summary, and then be able to kind of share that. And obviously, it's easy enough to be able to kind of copy and paste that into an email. And that's the way that I would do it, just to pop it in. Obviously, I would anonymize that there because you could see that there's reference in there. But we could put good practice in there. There's no reason why we couldn't say, what is exemplary and what's, what outstanding practice have we got. And that's a good way to be able to kind of share that best practice across school as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this so that we've got everything just to wrap the session up, forgive me, I'm multitasking now. So I will save that comment actually, and again, that goes down to the bottom. Okay, so that's really how the AI works. So we've had a quick look at what it's doing, how it's used. We started to think a little bit about how we can shape and tailor the instruction so we can gain more insights, or we can think about how we want to present that insight so that then it's good to be able to kind of share. Really great for self-evaluation too. So again, we just looked at their next steps and things like send and inclusion. We also thought a little bit about how we can integrate those terms in the work that we're doing. If you've created your own learning walks and so on, tailor them, add content into the instructions, the prompts, the questions, the lines of inquiry. You might want to put in some references there to certain areas of the inspection or the curriculum that you're working with, just so that, again, you can draw those out as you start to use the AI. So hopefully it's been useful. Share the recording with your colleagues so they can get a little bit of an idea as to how best to use it as well. We'll conclude things there, and hopefully I will see you next week too. Hope you've enjoyed this session. Bye now.